Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started again. It's now 10:40, and I believe we're on the fourth item on the agenda, future agenda items. I do have one thing to discuss regarding that. We need to pick a date where we can actually have our animal physical rehabilitation regulation hearing. We need to have a hearing, and I would like to propose 4 dates and ask the board members if they are available in any of these dates. We have August 6th or 7th or August 13th or 14th are our choices. Any comments by the board for that? Jessica, do you want to do a quick straw poll? How would you like to handle this?
Sure. I can go down the roll, and if members, if you can tell me what dates you are available, if it's we only need one day to clarify. So if you can tell me if you are available on those days, or if there's a date that you're not available, then I can cross that out. So with that, I already know that Dr. Noland and Ms. Bowler are available on those 4 days. So I'm going to ask Dr. Bradbury, do you have any concerns? Are you available for the 6th, the 7th, 13th, or the 14th?
I'm available for the 7th, 13th, and 14th.
Okay, Ms. Laredo?
I'm available all of the days.
Okay, Dr. Nunez?
I apologize. I didn't hear what you're talking about.
So we're talking about holding a hearing for the animal physical rehab regulation. Yeah. And we have proposed August 6th, 7th, 13th, or 14th.
The 6th and the 13th are best for me, not the 7th and the 14th. Those Thursdays.
Ms. Prado?
The same here, August 6th and 13th.
Dr. Waterhouse?
The 7th and the 14th are best for me.
Okay. And I will email Alana and check her availability, and then members, I will go ahead and email you out an update if we have a date that works best for everybody or the majority of the members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other future agenda items that need to be discussed? Okay, we'll move along to our agenda item number 5.
This is Tara.
Oh, yes.
Can we do public comment?
On agenda item number 4, I just want to let the board know that we will also need to talk about some revisions to the duties of supervising veterinarian rulemaking. We'll need to do that after August 3rd, so perhaps we could do that on the same day as the APR hearing. I'm just putting that out there, just so you guys aren't surprised.
Okay, so I can talk with the executive committee on whether or not they want to put it on the same day of the APR hearing, or we can carry it over to the October meeting.
So I would like to, I guess I forgot to open it up to public comment for future agenda items. Is that correct, Jessica?
Right.
Okay, so moderator, would you mind opening up for public comment future agenda items?
Thank you, Madam President. I've opened up the question and answer panel. So if you would like to make a public comment, please type, "I would like to make a comment" in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and send it to all panelists. I will unmute people in the order that their requests come in. We are displaying instructions for your reference, and we will give you a moment to access the Q&A panel. If you do not see it, please click on the icon of a person next to 3 lines at the bottom of your screen, and then you should see it to the right, bottom right. This is the moderator, and no requests for public comment have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I will do so.
And now we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 5, special order of business, petition for reinstatements, and a petition for termination of probation. I will turn it over now to Jessica.
And I will actually turn it over to Judge Washington, who would be presiding over these two petitions. Honorable Judge Washington, are you able to activate your video? Oh, there we go. And are you able to unmute yourself as well?
I think I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Excellent. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, and I assume at this point, are you guys on a break? Are you taking a break, or did you want to just push right through?
We're ready. They had already taken a break, so we're ready to start.
Okay, so a couple of things before I do get started is I want to be sure that I have the most up-to-date information with respect to the board members. The information that I have suggests that a couple of members' terms may have expired last month. So I want to be sure that I have the most up-to-date information. I have Jamie Nolan as the president.
Correct. All the information you have, Judge Washington, is current. The members who have termed out, they're currently serving in the grace period.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much.
And just, you know, the only board member that is not present is Alana Yanis.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, President Nolan, I have a couple of questions also before we get started. In terms of board questioning, did you want to, well, I guess since we're doing this virtually, I'm not sure it makes much difference. When we're in the boardroom, I asked, do you want to start left to right, right to left, or have the president go first, or have the president go last? Do you have any particular preference?
No, and we have been sort of using the pictures on our screen and going across the picture line. That's what I've been doing, but it's your choice. But
I am fine with that. And so based on, just one second, I know there's a way to reorganize these.
Another option is to actually take the agenda. Do you have the agenda in front of you?
Oh, you're muted, Judge Washington.
Okay, I'm really better at this than it appears to be so far. I would say I do, but it's a long story, but to use the computer with the camera, I have my laptop, so I'm sort of limited in terms of the space I can use here. But I do have the agenda, I believe, was in the materials that were sent. But I'll work it out. I'll just go through my list, and if I inadvertently miss anyone, please speak up.
That will work fine. Thank you.
All right. And I'm sorry, I want to be able to see the petitioners, and at this point I can't, so give me just one moment. I know it's one of these buttons up in the right-hand corner.
So
there we go. I think I just figured it out. And so, Ms. Aviles,
yes,
you're on the line, but not on camera, correct?
I think so. I'm trying to turn it on right now, Your Honor.
Okay.
And Dr. Nolan, I don't think our pictures are in the same order on all of our computers. Good.
But if he at least uses his computer and calls on every picture he sees, he'll get through us. I think that's the concern.
Right. And I do have a list, so I'll just go down the list.
Perfect.
And as I'm scrolling through photographs, I see Ms. Crawford. And I don't see Ms. Kent. Is she on the call?
I believe she's participating with Bonnie Liu.
Okay.
Wait.
You put us,
Okay, got it.
yes, we're here. Bonnie Lutz and Dr. Kent are here.
Okay. All right. And a couple of preliminary matters then before we get started that I will ask Ms. Or the petitioners. Ms. Avalos, are you represented?
No, I'm not, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have any documents that you would like the board to consider that you have not already submitted?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. And Ms. Kent, or I'm sorry, Dr. Kent, you are represented by Ms. Lutz?
Yes.
Okay. And any documents that I should know about that have not already been submitted?
No, there's no additional documents, Your Honor.
Okay. Are there any questions from the petitioner before we get started?
No.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. And I need the name and CSR number of our court reporter, please.
It's Ann, A-N-N, last name Leitz, L-E-I-T-Z as in zebra,
Okay.
and 9149.
9149.
Correct.
Okay. And Ms. Leitz, I'm going to need you to remain on the line briefly when we finish so I can get the number of pages or estimated number of pages, okay?
Okay.
All right. And I know you joined us yesterday for practice. I assume since I can see you, you can see all of us at this point as well?
I can.
Okay. So if you have any questions or any issues with respect to determining who's speaking, obviously you can just jump right in.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any preliminary matters before we go on the record?
No, sir.
Take that as a no. All right. Then let's go on the record. We're here to review two petitions for reinstatement or early termination of probation. The petitioners are Susie Avalos and Elsie Kent. These matters are being heard before the Veterinary Medical Board. Will all members of the board please identify themselves for the record?
I'll start. I'm Dr. Jamie Noland.
Kathy Bowler.
Christina Bradbury.
Jennifer Laredo.
Cheryl Waterhouse.
This is Diana Prado.
All right, thank you very much. A quorum of the board is present. As a preliminary matter,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Dr. Mark Nunez did not make himself known. Mark?
I get confused. Can you hear me right now? Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, I hear. Mark Nunez.
excellent. Anyone else? I'm going to take that as a no. So before we get started, what I'd like to do with these matters is be sure that I have everyone's titles correct. To the extent each of the petitioners and the panel members are doctors, I want to be sure I use the appropriate titles because you've earned it. But sometimes I'm not 100% sure. So both of our petitioners are Dr. Aviles and Dr. Kent, correct?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, please let me know.
I'm a veterinary technician,
Who's speaking?
Susie Aviles.
Okay. And Elsie Kent is Dr. Kent, correct?
Dr. Elise Kent.
Elise, thank you very much. All right. Well, let's get started before we before we get too far off schedule. So what I intend to do is call the matter separately. I'll call the Avila's matter first, and then we will proceed with Dr. Kent. All right? All right?
Yes, Your
Yes,
Honor.
that's fine.
All right. And I'm going to need some sort of feedback from someone just so I can be sure my mic's not muted and sort of give me a cue here. All right, so let's call the Avila's matter first. So in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Susie Avila's, OEH matter 20200600057. May I take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General, please?
Anahita Crawford, Deputy Attorney General.
All right, thank you very much. And the petitioner is here and representing herself. In this proceeding, the board is concerned with hearing about any rehabilitation or the existence of other circumstances since your license was disciplined. Is that understood, Ms. Avilas?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. The Deputy Attorney General will first present your petition packet and provide any background information on the matter. After that, you'll have the opportunity to make a presentation. I'll remind you, as I do all petitioners, that the board has a benefit of reading your materials that you have submitted in advance. So it isn't necessary to go over every single detail that you have included in your package. And what I would generally expect is for you to touch on the things that you feel are key or crucial to the request that you are making. Understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Do you have any questions for me?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Crawford, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Anahita Crawford. I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the board in fact-finding and ensure adequate information is obtained from which to make a decision. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. By way of background, the petitioner was issued her registered veterinary technician license on August 9th of 2004. She surrendered her license effective June 30th, 2016, pursuant to a stipulated surrender. On September 9th of 2015, an accusation was filed that alleged that on April 17th of 2015, the petitioner was convicted of 7 counts of violations of the insurance code, unemployment code, and also charged with grand theft, all felonies. In her plea, the petitioner admitted that she had made false statements regarding workers' compensation for the purpose of receiving reduced premiums. She had failed to file a tax return for the purpose of avoiding tax consequences, and she had signed a false tax return. She had also taken money and personal property belonging to another. She was therefore placed on 5 years of probation with the criminal court, 500 hours of community service. She was ordered to participate in counseling and pay restitution in the amount of $309,516. Furthermore, the accusation alleged that the petitioner failed to respond to an inquiry by the board, which requested a detailed explanation of her arrest. When she surrendered her license, petitioner agreed to pay $2,500 in costs prior to the reinstatement of her license. This time, Your Honor, I would like to introduce our exhibits, which I've already provided to the petitioner. Exhibit 1 is the notice of hearing for today's hearing date. I'd like that marked and introduced at this time for jurisdictional purposes.
All right, I have marked the document described by counsel as Exhibit 1. Ms. Avila's counsel has requested it be admitted for jurisdictional purposes. Essentially, that is to establish that I have jurisdiction over this matter, that you have been served, that you filed a petition, You have been notified of when this petition hearing will occur, and we are all here to have that hearing. Understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection to Exhibit 1 being admitted for jurisdictional purposes?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Exhibit 1 is admitted as described.
Exhibit 2 is the license history certification for the petitioner. I would also like that marked and introduced at this time.
All right. Is there any objection to Exhibit 2 being admitted to evidence, Ms. Aviles?
No, Your Honor.
Hearing no objection, Exhibit 2 is admitted.
Thank you. Exhibit 3 is the petition, and this is actually a reinstatement petition. It's a petition for reinstatement along with attachments in support that was filed by Ms. Aviles.
Okay, stand by just 1 second, please. All right, the document described by counsel has been marked for identification as Exhibit 3. Is there any objection to Exhibit 3 being admitted?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 3 is admitted.
And Exhibit 4 is the stipulated surrender of license and order along with the underlying accusation in case number AA 2015-40.
And you'd like that to be written?
I would like that marked and introduced at this time. Yes, please.
All right, that document has been marked for identification. Any objection to Exhibit 4 being admitted?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 4 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do not have any additional evidence to present at this time.
Okay, so now is the opportunity for you to present your case, Ms. Aviles. Are you prepared to do that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, would you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you provide today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Please have a seat. And now that you're under oath, would you please state and spell both your first and last name for the record?
Susie Aviles, SUSIE-AVILES.
Thank you. So if you had an attorney here to represent you, they would essentially ask you questions to allow you to present any information or evidence that you felt was important to support your position. What I generally tell individuals who represent themselves is, tell me and the board what you want us to know and what you feel is critical for your petition. You may begin when ready.
Well, after the difficult time when I lost and gave up our business due to, of course, the lack of knowledge and experience in the roofing company, I would continue working in the veterinary medical field as an assistant, seeing as I no longer had my license. And after completing my community hours with the court, I just continued just trying to stay in the field as close as possible due to the passion that I had for it. I have learned from my mistakes, knowing that I did not have any experience or education on running a company with my husband, and hoping that I'm given another chance, an opportunity to continue as in the veterinary medical field as well. I have learned from my mistakes, of course, knowing that I have to further myself with knowledge before I pursue anything more than what I'm trained to do, of course.
All right, anything else?
Yes, I would also really appreciate it if the Veterinary Medical Board and Ms. Crawford and yourself, Your Honor, would reconsider on giving me this second chance to try to prove myself and further my education and knowledge in this field as well.
All right, anything more?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Crawford, would you like to ask questions at this point, or would you like to wait until after the board asks questions?
I'd like to ask questions at this point, please.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you. Ms. Aviles, I wanted to get some clarification. Your testimony today, along with some of the letters that you have provided from support people, all make a reference to your roofing company. And that, it's not very clear to me what your lack of knowledge with your roofing company, how that relates to the charges in the accusation. Could you please explain a little bit more and elaborate that connection for us?
Sure. So at the time when my husband started the roofing company, I was working in the veterinary medical field. And I believe it became so overwhelming for him that he asked me for help. He was the one that was the contract, had a contracting roofing license, and he just needed help with paperwork. So I just tried doing paperwork for him in that aspect so that he can do the labor portion of it and parts of the roofing that needed to be done. I didn't go to any training or schooling for roofing businesses, anything to help me. I was just kind of learning as I went. So I had no training in any aspect on how to run a roofing company or any paperwork or anything. I was just kind of learning as I went on my own, like trial and error, just kind of learning on my own. So everything that was done and I was accused of was not intentional. It was just lack of knowledge on my part.
Okay. So the charges that you were convicted of arose out of your assistance in your husband's roofing company.
Yes, from what that was explained to me at the time previously, it was like a sole proprietorship, and then he wanted to include me to help him with the run the business. And seeing as because I'm a woman, minority owned, it would be more easier for us to get more work. So that is why he added me to the business. And it was explained to me that in order to have a corporation, you need to have multiple members on board to be able to do so. But because I did the paperwork, I was held responsible for it.
Okay. And there was quite a large sum of money for restitution purposes.
Yeah.
Primarily to the workers' compensation fund. Has that been repaid?
No, I'm on a payment plan, and it was explained to me by the judge at the time. I had asked them, I didn't understand a lot of it. That was when I did have legal representation. It was explained to me that because of the accusations of what they said I owed, that on the dollar amount, that everything else kind of tied in with it. So if I owed so much for workers' comp, I owed this much for taxes, and so on and so forth. And that is why they said because of the dollar amount, it had to be a felony charge because I had requested a misdemeanor, if it can be reduced to a misdemeanor while we're on a payment plan, and he said no. So a lot of this was just explained to me that not all of the money was disclosed, even though I was paying premiums, but I was not disclosing the proper amounts. So they said that I owed all that amount. Now, if I had the full amount owed, from what was explained to me, if I had the $300,000, then all of this would go away. But I didn't have that. So they put me on a monthly payment plan because I started working part-time due to my disability. And with my husband, he was the one that earned more of the income. And all the bills that we owed, they put us on a monthly payment plan.
Okay.
Now
you're continuing?
Yes, ma'am. And they did tell me that I can always go back and see if I can work something out again. But I don't know how to do that. I need to get legal representation for that.
Are you still on probation in that criminal case?
No, I believe it said dated. I'd have to look at my paperwork. I believe it was effective June 22nd, 5 years. And then, so I believe I am currently off that. If I did my calculations correct, I should have been finished with my probation as of last month.
Have you received any letters in the mail about being off probation?
No, I haven't. And I don't know if it's because of everything that has shut down and reopened and everything's slowing down, but I have not received anything at all.
Okay. But you're continuing to make your payments?
Yes, ma'am. My husband and I are both on monthly payment plans.
And what is the allegation regarding taking the property of another? What were the circumstances around that?
They were saying that we didn't pay an employee money. That's what it was. I understood that an employee didn't get what he was supposed to get, so that was taking property.
Okay.
I believe that's what I understood.
Okay. Now, you did surrender your license in this case. And why did you surrender your license?
Out of good faith, hoping that the Veterinary Medical Board would reconsider after I've served my 1-year probation with the Veterinary Medical Board. And I also waited to, as far as I can, to complete my probation with the criminal offenses that I had, so that they can see that I've been good the whole 5 years.
I understood that your license was surrendered. What 1-year probation are you referring to?
They put me on a 1-year probation from the Veterinary Medical Board did from that day.
After the surrender of your license?
Yes. It was a 1-year probation. That is what they said.
And what were you to comply with any probation terms during that 1 year?
Just to be in good standing, I believe, not to have any violations of any sort. And that 1 year from then, that no guarantees that I can petition to try to have my license reinstated is what I understood. At that time, I had legal representation, so I'm doing the best that I can to.
I understand. There's also an allegation in the accusation that you did not respond to the board's inquiry when they sent out a letter asking you to explain the circumstances of your arrest. Can you tell us why you didn't do that?
Yes. At the time, I recall that I did not receive the letter, and they said they did, and that is why I did not. So then I told them I can submit it, not a problem, but I did not receive that letter, and they did verify my address. So that was the only reason.
Okay. There is a restitution amount that is owing in this case. Is that something that you would be able, I'm sorry, I said restitution, it's cost. Is that something that you would be able to pay before your license is reinstated?
Yes, ma'am. That is why I could not get representation, because it was too much.
And since these incidents happened regarding your criminal conviction and the underlying act, can you explain what you have done that could assure the board that those kinds of incidents would not happen again?
Yes, ma'am. I realized that I am too scared to go into business again. I will not do that again due to the fact that I have the lack of knowledge and training, of course, and education for that. And that is something that left me traumatized. So I just rather pursue my my veterinary technician career and furthering it if I'm able to, of course.
I was muted. you have taken quite a few continuing education courses.
Yes, ma'am.
In your petition. I was hoping you could explain one of the certificates. It's something that I couldn't quite follow, so I'll refer you to your exhibits that I sent to you. Do you have those?
No, I do not.
Did you receive any exhibits from me, an exhibit list?
No, ma'am. Did you just send them recently? I'm sorry.
I thought I did. On June 16th?
Let me look in my mail right now. I'm looking right now. I'm wondering if it went to my spam.
Okay, why don't we go off the record briefly and maybe we can figure it out and then we'll go back on.
Okay.
All right, so off the record.
Ms. Avalos, if you want to give me your email, I'll send it to you right now so you don't have to spend time looking.
Thank you. It is the letters rr.ranch@yahoo.com.
Okay, I just sent it.
I'm checking now. I apologize for the delay, but I have not received it. I'm still looking.
That's okay.
I just received it. Give me a moment.
Okay.
Okay, so there we go. So Ms. Crawford, which one were you referring to?
Okay, so if you want to go to page 22 of the PDF,
Okay.
it should say AGO 20 down at the bottom.
And let me know when you found it, please.
Okay.
So my
All right,
question.
so stand by. Let's go back on the record. All right, we are back on the record in the petition of Susie Avalos, OEH number 20200600057. We took a brief break or went off the record briefly to ensure that the petitioner had the full exhibit packet in front of her, and it's my understanding, Ms. Avalos, that you have that now, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
All right. Ms. Crawford, you may continue.
Thank you. I was just hoping you could shed some light on how to interpret this certificate. There are several certificates from WVC, and they appear
I'm sorry. Ms. Crawford, can you state on the record what page that is? I think we were off the record when you said it.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's AGO 20, and that would be Exhibit 3. And the certificates say WVC, Certificate of Attendance. And there appears to be a date of February 17th, 2019 for 40 hours of veterinary technician continuing education.
Yes.
And then when I turn to AGO 21, it appears to me be the exact same document. Is there a difference between these two certificates?
So on page 20 and 21,
Yes.
those are all the classes I attended at the veterinary conference. And so when I go onto a specific link that saves all my classes I took, these are the sheets that print out. So, and it doesn't have the names on there. That's the part I didn't understand. But it'll give you the list of names on my file when I log in, all the classes I attended and got scanned into the classes. And then it asks when you go to print a certificate, that's what came out for each class I would print. And I would just have to fill it in, but it wouldn't say what classes they were.
I see.
So that was the only part that I was looking for as well, why it did not give me a class, but they gave us a scanner on a barcode on our name tags. You scan yourself in to check yourself in class.
Okay.
So I just kept a list of all the classes. I printed out a list of all the session classes I took when I was there.
All right. Thank you for explaining that to me.
You're welcome.
And at this time, the only other question I have is what your plan is if your license is reinstated. What do you plan to do with that license?
Well, I would like to further my education and as a VTS in anesthesia and analgesia, which requires a lot of hours in training, of course, with a board certified anesthesiologist or veterinarian. But due to the current health condition problems that I have, I'm going to try to go as far as I can unless I'm not able to anymore.
And are you currently working?
Yes, I am.
And tell us a little bit about what you do currently.
So at the hospital I work at ABC Veterinary Hospital in San Diego, California. And I was hired on as a veterinary assistant. And I don't get to do all the things I used to be able to do, but we do have a registered veterinary technician there, but what you call a baby technician. She's fairly new, a student from Pima, and they always ask me for help because they know that I know a lot. So I try to help them with the knowledge I have had because they call me an old school technician, and just assist as much as I can. But I was hired as a veterinary assistant. They, under the direct supervision, of course, of a veterinarian, they do ask me a lot to go into surgery with them and monitor anesthesia since I have a lot more experience in that field when with her when she's there or not there, and just assist as much as I can.
And if your license is reinstated, do you plan to continue working there?
Oh, yes, of course. And possibly be brought on as a student at another hospital so I can further my experience and knowledge in anesthesia and analgesia, because I believe it requires 8,000 hours.
That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, so now would be the board's opportunity to ask any questions that they may have. So I'm just going to start from the top of my list and ask you, Dr. Nolan, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
Thank you, Your Honor, and welcome, Mrs. Avalos. Thank you for being with us. I know this is very hard to do, and I really appreciate your efforts and whatnot. And I'm very impressed with all of the continuing education that you've taken over the last several years. That's very impressive.
Well
done.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Do you plan on asking for any sort of pay increase if you are able to get your license reinstated? be an opportunity?
No, to be honest with you, if you knew a little bit about me, with my health being so sick that I was, it was hard to keep me on board all the time because I was always coming and going from work, being really sick. So I would always volunteer my time as a licensed technician at the time and not get paid for it. That way I felt not guilty of not being able to be, what I'm trying to say, someone that they can rely on all the time. Because I also at the time taking care of my son who's autistic, so I was always coming and going, and it was not being able to be relied on all the time. So I'd rather volunteer my time at the time. So I didn't get paid for it. So for me, it wasn't the pay, it was a passion.
Okay, so this is more about furthering your education and being able to grow
Yes.
professionally. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Thank you.
All right, Vice President Bowler.
Good morning. And again, thank you very much for being here. And we really all appreciate how difficult this is in person or virtually. So appreciate it. Many of my questions were answered already. I do have a couple. On your payments that you're making monthly for the prior legal issues, have you ever missed any monthly payments?
I believe I missed one, but I continue paying them, and I keep track of all my payments.
Okay.
And it was just due to I forgot. That's what it was.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. And then since it looks like you were issued your RVT license in 2004.
Yes, ma'am.
And have you been working, and I realize, albeit possibly part-time, but pretty continuously as a RVT since 2004,
Yes.
up until your surrender? Okay, thank you. And have you had any disciplinary issues with the board prior to your other legal problems with the roofing company?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Okay. Thank you. That's really what I had, and I appreciate it, and thank you for all your work and your passion.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Bradbury.
Hi, Ms. Avalos. Thank you again. I know that we all say that, but I really do appreciate you coming, and it's very brave to come and ask for this. And I don't really have any questions, just a comment that I do appreciate your passion and what you're trying to do. And so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Nunez.
Okay. What we have to do here in this hearing is to make sure that you have exhibited evidence of rehabilitation so that you can serve the role as an RVT and not do disservice to the consumer. I'm impressed with the fact that you have kept up with your continuing education. That's one thing that I would like to see in an RVT. And I'm impressed with the letters of recommendation you submitted. There were 2 of them. So I think that you're capable of being a good RVT in this great profession of ours. But the other thing that I expect from licensees, whether or not they're RVTs or DVMs, is honesty. You have to be an honest person to serve the consumer well. And I think that our profession is the greatest there is on the planet, and I expect all of us to be honest. So I need to be convinced that you're an honest person, and it's maybe hard to ask. But you were convicted of 7 counts of insurance fraud, workman's comp, or misrepresenting facts to reduce workman comp's fees, failure to file with the intent to evade tax, grand theft, and so forth and so forth. And the explanation that you've given was, well, I didn't know what I was doing, and that's why I got charged with these felonies. Usually when somebody doesn't know what they're doing in a business, that's going to result in them going out of business because they potentially may not make money. But yet, the fact that you didn't know what you were doing resulted in you actually getting $309,000 that you had to pay back to different agencies and different individuals. If this happened to me, I don't know if I would learn. What did you learn if you truly didn't know what you were doing, and that's why you got into trouble? Versus, I'm not convinced that maybe you did know what you were doing, and there was perhaps malicious intent in committing fraud. The other thing that gives me a little bit of pause is that when you claim that you're currently on probation, you're not on probation, you surrendered your license. You may be confused with after you surrender your license, you have the ability to petition for reinstatement of your license, but you're not on probation, and there's no terms of probation that you have to fulfill right now because you're not an RBT. So the impression that left me is that you really don't know what situation you are in with this board as well. So as an RBT, you kind of have to be aware of rules and regulations and what you can do and what you cannot do. So the fact that you didn't know what you were doing with this company, you don't know that you surrendered your license. How am I to assure the consumer that you'll know the rules and regulations of what you can and cannot do as a RBT? So can you respond to?
Sure.
Well, and before you respond, Ms. Avalos, maybe I can jump in a bit. I think what I heard Dr. Nunez was two questions, and please correct me if I'm wrong. And I want to be sure Ms. Avalos is on the same page, or at least I'm on the same page with everyone else. I think one question was about whether or not you either currently are or recently were on probation. I thought there was some discussion about your criminal probation, but I want to let you clarify that point. And the second question, I believe Mr. Nunez was essentially, to the extent you didn't understand what you were doing in your business with your husband that resulted in you unlawfully obtaining $309,000 that you had to pay back. How essentially can the board trust that you will make better choices if your license is reinstated? Is that a fair summary, Dr. Nunez? And if not, please say so. I'm not the specialist.
Well, the biggest thing that I would have to have answered is that it seems like when you look at the charges against you, that this is a dishonest person. And I haven't been quite convinced that the petitioner is not a dishonest person based on the excuse that I didn't know what I was doing. That's why I got into trouble. And then I'm further take pause in her ability to serve her duties as a licensed RBT because she's not aware of the fact that she's not on probation, which makes me wonder how is she going to know the rules and regulations that are going to apply to her as a licensed RBT.
Okay, Ms. Avalos, go ahead. If you understand.
So just to repeat, I'm having a hard time understanding Dr. Nunez. That's why I keep pausing a little bit. So from what I'm understanding, you're not convinced because please correct me if I'm wrong, that I didn't understand that I was or was not on probation with the Veterinary Medical Board. Is that correct?
You are not on probation. You have surrendered your life.
Right. But because I don't have legal counsel, I'm understanding from what I read, I understood that I was on a 1-year probation from that day with my attorney, what I was explained. So if I'm incorrect, then you're correct. I did not understand that, but that's what I understood.
You are incorrect.
Okay.
And Ms. Aviles, are you referring to your criminal case?
No, I'm referring to the Veterinary Medical Board.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and to Dr. Nunez, I understand that you're not convinced with the charges that were brought against me criminally. Please understand and try to believe me when I tell you the reason why I didn't know a lot was because it was my lack of knowledge, because that was not what I wanted to do. It was something that I had to help my husband to the best of my knowledge. And that's why I apologize if it comes off as I'm lying. I was learning as I was going. I would ask questions to whomever I thought I could ask for help, but I did not have the proper training, nor did I go to school for it, not even for accounting, bookkeeping, a major in business. I just learned as I went, just Googling, looking stuff online. How do I do this? How do I do that? So I believe and honestly, I believe at the time that I was charged for everything, it was due to stuff that I missed, overlooked, not doing things correctly. Because if you look at our previous record in the roofing business, our license was paid, our bond was paid, we were paying workers' comp premiums, we were paying general liability. So I believe that it was my error. I'm not saying that it wasn't my fault. Yes, it was my fault, but I didn't do it intentionally. It was just because I was not good in that area. I was just trying to help my husband the best that I could. It was not intentional. So how I learned from my mistakes is that I'm not going to do it again. I was left traumatized. Forgive me if I cry. It was very difficult for me.
Do you need a break?
No, Your Honor. It did cause a big strain on my marriage because I blame my husband for it, because I lost my license as a veterinary technician that I worked really hard for. So I understand, doctor, if you do not want to give me another chance, I respect that. But I will promise you that I will not do that again. I'm not a person that's afraid to ask questions and ask for help, clarification when it comes to the veterinary medical field, because that is something I truly love. But with respect to the board, I do appreciate and respect anything you have to say. I'll be happy just still working in the field as an assistant. I understand.
Yeah, and thank you for answering the questions. I know it's difficult, but I hope you understand. We just have to ask certain questions to make sure that you show evidence to rehabilitate the reasons why you lost your license in the first place. And that's what we need to hear from you today.
I understand.
Not a personal thing.
No, I understand.
You have very, very good letters of recommendation, so I'm sure you're very good at being an RVT. I just needed to ask some questions about your responsibility and what really happened here. So thank you for answering.
Is there any more questions I can answer for you?
Dr. Nunez? Okay, thank you. Ms. Laredo?
Hi, Ms. Aviles. So I can't even imagine how hard it is for you to sit there and answer these questions, so I have some easy ones for you. My first question I had you answered was you had been an RVT for 11 years, and I know how hard it is to become an RVT, and you chose to surrender your license rather than being on probation with the board, but I think you answered that. My second question was, are you still married with your husband?
Yes, I am. I have 2 children.
Okay. So I know, as you did say, that caused a strain. So I hope that you have learned from everything. And I know Dr. Nunez did have some tough questions, but you know that we are here just to make sure that the public is protected. So my first question is super easy for you. Why did you want to become a veterinary technician in the first place? You're willing to work in the field as an assistant, making significantly less money. What was it about this field that appealed to you?
Honestly, I've always wanted to be a veterinarian, believe it or not. But I got diagnosed really young with rheumatoid arthritis at the age of 15. So it was very painful and debilitating for me. So I thought that in the veterinary medical world, I could not be accommodated physically. So I started my first job as a kennel aide, and I started working my way up from there. And just getting a feel for it and seeing how hard it was and what the veterinary technicians did. So I thought, well, I might not be able to be accommodated in the veterinary medical world, like as a veterinarian with my hands, because, you know, the veterinarians really work with their hands and need their hands, and I did not have the strength for it. So I said, well, I'll be good enough, I think, to be close enough by being a technician, and that was satisfying enough for me.
Okay, well, judging by your letters of recommendation, it sounds like you're doing something right. So thank you so much for being here, and that was all of my questions.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Prado.
Yes, hi, Ms. Aviles. I just want to thank you for being here, for answering all of our questions. It is, like everyone else has said, tough and could be intimidating. I don't have any further questions. My fellow board members have asked questions sufficient, and you've answered them sufficient for me. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Dr. Waterhouse.
Yes, and so I want to second that, Ms. Aviles, and thank you for being here. I want to talk some more about what you do as a veterinary assistant. So what are your duties?
So I do a lot of risk training. I do a lot of assisting and prepping all the patients for surgery. I have been asked to assist a lot in surgery due to a lot of knowledge that I have in surgery when the other technician is tied up. I have done dentals, as in scaling, but with the veterinarians there. She doesn't like to do dentals, so I have to do the cleaning, but she does all the extractions and everything that need be. And then I take over the monitoring with her from there with her. And I'm trying to be as honest as I can with you. I do help sometimes with the RVT that's new. When she has a difficult time with IV catheters, I try to show her how to do it because she can, or try guiding her when she does them. She goes, am I doing it right? She just graduated from PEMA last year, so she's still new. So they always ask me for help, like, can you teach her? Can you help her? You're so good with helping. Because I guess a lot of them just need a lot of help. But they are aware that I don't have my license. They are aware that I'm not able to do these things, but they do ask me to help a lot.
Okay. So in one of the letters from the veterinarians, you had, what, 2 letters, and they were very complimentary. But one of them did say something about she worked as a surgery and nursing care tech who was responsible for performing anesthesia.
Right. So when I'm in surgery or when the doctor's there, she wants me to go ahead, and it was at another hospital, as a matter of fact. It was at Bastet. So the one I'm at now is ABC Veterinary, but it was at Bastet. And I believe you're referring, is it to Dr. Savitas' letter?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so Dr. Savitas was a relief veterinarian still there. I'm no longer there. They did not have an RVT there, and they still do not have an RVT there. And because I was the only one asked to do certain duties, because I was the only one with the knowledge, I was expected to do certain things knowing that I did not have my license, unfortunately, yes. Yeah, and these are just relief veterinarians that come in. That is the bad thing about that. That's why I left.
Okay, so when they said performing anesthesia, that means you were inducing anesthesia?
Yes, ma'am. with the veterinarian there.
And you know that only,
Yes.
you know, and only the RVT can do that.
Yes, ma'am. And I was expected to do that. Unfortunately, because the veterinarians. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm honest.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions from any panel members? Any questions that may have come up?
I have a question. Since, what if your husband starts another business?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
What if your husband starts another business and asks you to help him out?
I'm sorry, repeat that again?
What if your husband starts another business and asks you to help him out?
No, he's not allowed to. Those are the restrictions I put on the marriage. We're not doing this again. It's not worth it losing my family and anything else that I've been through. I've been through too much stress already. I can't take anymore. It's not allowed at all.
I think that's a wise answer.
Yes, he currently works for a roofing company, a company as an employer, but that's it. I mean, that's as far as he's going. I won't do it.
All right. Any other questions? Ms. Crawford, any additional questions from you?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. And Ms. Avila, sometimes when an individual testifies at hearing and they're asked questions by me or other individuals, things come to mind that they may have forgotten, or something may have come up that they felt was that they feel was important in terms of their presentation. Anything come to mind that you want to present additionally that you haven't already?
No, sir. I mean, I'd like to just answer everybody's questions. If they have any more questions, I don't mind answering them. I'm just a ball of nerves, so I apologize.
We appreciate that. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, then if there's no further questions, that concludes the petition hearing for this matter. And the record is closed, and we are off the record in this matter. Thank you very much, Ms. Avila.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again, Ms. Avila. And I wanted to ask Your Honor if we could have a break at this point.
Yes. How much time? 15 minutes? Maybe come back?
We'll need a 15-minute break. We actually, just to warn you, board members, we have some more information that was given to us. Jessica, you need to mute. I think yours is the one that... Jessica, mute.
Yeah, members, I apologize. I just I received the exhibits that the next petitioner has provided. The exhibits did make it to the Deputy Attorney General and OAH with Judge Washington. And so I had forwarded that to the members during the last petition hearing. So I think
that's my fault.
I think a 15-minute break would be helpful for the members to make sure that they've had time to review the information.
Right, and we can certainly take more. You want to take 20, 25?
No, I think 15 minutes is adequate.
Okay, sounds good. So let's come back at 12:05.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Off the record. Before we go back on the record, Ms. Leeds, can I get the estimated number of pages for the Aviles matter?
35?
35?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. All right, is everyone back?
We're here, Your Honor. Bonnie Lutz and Dr. Kent.
All right.
Anahita Crawford, I'm here as well.
All right, any preliminary matters before we go on the record for the second matter today?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so let's go on the record. And we are on the record in the matter or the petition of Elise Kent, OAH matter 2020060-058. May I take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General, please?
Anahita Crawford, Deputy Attorney General.
Thank you very much. And may I take the appearance of the petitioner and her representative?
Yes, Bonnie Lutz representing Dr. Elise Kent, and Dr. Kent is also here. I'm here in the room with her, but we have the camera on her so that you can see her when she answers questions.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will note for the record, earlier we took the roll of the board members who were present, and we have a quorum. I don't believe there's a need to do that again since we've stated on the record for both matters. So at this time, Ms. Crawford, you may begin with your presentation.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Anahita Crawford. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the board in fact-finding to ensure adequate information is obtained from which to make a decision, as my role is not adversarial but intended to protect the public interest. As way of a background in this matter, the petitioner was issued her veterinarian license number on August 8, 1980. She was placed on probation for 5 years, effective September 23, 2017, pursuant to an amended accusation, which was filed on September 30th of 2016. In the accusation, the petitioner was charged with 2 DUI convictions, one in 2008 and another in 2013. She was also charged with the use of drugs, namely the use of cocaine, on May 21st, 2014. The petitioner had used cocaine beginning in 2009, and her sobriety date from cocaine is June 24th, 2016. She was further charged in the accusation with not recording findings for a physical exam on patient F in 2014. Also, as to patient F, she was charged with failing to document an adequate medical history, failing to record an adequate description of the tooth extraction procedures performed, failing to record a diagnosis for each tooth requiring extraction, and failing to document results of a physical examination before she anesthetized patient F, all of which occurred in 2015. In a decision after non-adoption, the board found the above allegations true, but also found that petitioner is an asset to her veterinary medical community and has greatly improved her record keeping in her business practice. She was therefore placed on probation for 5 years, and costs were reduced to $7,042.20. She was ordered to take 4 hours per year in ethics continuing education units, enter a rehabilitation program, abstain from drugs and alcohol, and submit to fluid testing. $2,766.70 remain on her costs. She is in compliance with all aspects of her probation, except that she did miss 4 tests, 1 in 2018 and 3 in 2019, with the most recent missed test being October 2nd of 2019. All tests have been negative. At this time, Your Honor, I would like to introduce our exhibits.
Okay.
And Exhibit 1 is the amended notice of hearing for today's hearing date. I would like that introduced for jurisdictional purposes and admitted.
All right. Any objection to Exhibit 1 being admitted for jurisdictional purposes?
No, Your Honor, no objection.
All right. Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Exhibit 2 is the license history certification for petitioner. I'd like that marked and introduced at this time.
All right. The document described by counsel has been marked as Exhibit 2. Hearing no objection, Exhibit 2 was admitted.
Exhibit 3 is the probation status report prepared by the board on petitioner's case.
All right. The document described by counsel is marked as Exhibit 3. Any objection to 3 being admitted? Exhibit 3 is admitted.
Exhibit 4 is the petition for early termination of probation and attachments in support. I do note that AGO 22 should be filed under seal as it is a document from the petitioner's therapist.
Give me just one moment. Let me get there. AGO 22?
Yes.
Oh, stand by 1 second. Okay, I have briefly reviewed AGO 22 of Exhibit 4, and it seems to me there is a basis to seal this document. It also contains the petitioner's date of birth as well, which I consider confidential information. So I am going to seal AGO 22 of Exhibit 4, assuming that it is admitted to evidence. Is there any objection to admitting Exhibit 4 into evidence and having the document described by counsel admitted under seal?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, the document will be admitted as described.
Thank you. And Exhibit 5 is the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order along with the underlying first amended accusation. I'd like that marked and introduced at this time as well.
That document is marked as Exhibit 5. Any objection to Exhibit 5 being admitted?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 5 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't have any further documents to present.
All right. And with that said, now's the opportunity for the petitioner to present her case. Ms. Luce?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Kent, Your Honor, I do have exhibits that I believe you have copies of, and just for the record, our Exhibit A is the same as Exhibit 4 that was just marked and introduced. But I do have some specific questions I'm going to be asking, so I will refer to our Exhibit A and the date stamp on our Exhibit A, if that's all right with the board.
That's fine. So at this point in the presentation of evidence, you intend to call the petitioner as a witness?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then let me swear the petitioner in. I wasn't sure if you were going to address exhibits first, but it sounds like you're going to do them along the way, correct?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Okay. Then if we can have the petitioner please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you provide today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please have a seat. And now please state and spell both your first and last name now that you are on the record.
Elise, E-L-Y-S-E, Kent, K-E-N-T.
All right, counsel, you may proceed when ready.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Kent, will you please look at Exhibit A in the packet in front of you?
Yeah.
And if you just look through the pages to refresh your recollection, did you prepare this document in Exhibit A?
Yes.
And is it the petition for reinstatement and modification of penalty along with exhibits that you filed with the Veterinary Medical Board? In order to keep a good record, we put the original question, even if you want to. Okay, if I could have you please look at pages A1 through A3. Is that the petition that you prepared?
Yes.
Is that your signature on A3?
Yes.
And if I could have you look at pages A4 through A27. Are those the exhibits that you attached to your petition?
Yes, they are.
And specifically, if I could have you look at pages A9 through A12. Are those letters of recommendation that you attached to the petition as well?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, at this time, we would like to introduce Petition's Exhibit A for all purposes.
All right. So before I do that, I do want to state for the record, just 1 second, that I have received, or we have received, an exhibit packet from respondent, which includes an exhibit index that appears to describe what each of these documents are. At least the exhibit index that is in front of me has a description for exhibits A, B, C, D, and E. And I'm going to consider each of these exhibits marked for identification as described in respondent's exhibit index. Is there any objection to what's been marked as Exhibit A being admitted to evidence?
No, Your Honor. My understanding is that Exhibit A is the same as our Exhibit 4.
That's my understanding, but I have not reviewed it page for page. So from where I sit, as long as I receive a separate document, until I'm sure it's exactly the same, I'm just going to admit it as its own document. And if we have a duplicate, then so be it.
Okay.
Okay, but hearing no objection, Exhibit A is admitted.
And Your Honor, I also think that page, I'm looking for the letter from Dr. Page A11 is the same as AGO 022, which has been filed under seal. I wanted to call the court's attention to that.
Okay. Thank you very much. So then A11 of Exhibit A will also be admitted under seal.
And in addition, Your Honor, I believe that my office had sent over to the OAH as well as to the Ms. Crawford and the board an updated exhibit list, which includes exhibits F and G. Do you not have a copy of that, Your Honor?
I believe I do. It's a separate exhibit list, correct?
Well, it's an updated. We updated it twice. We added Exhibit F and updated it, and then we updated it a second time when we added Exhibit G. So then it was my understanding that yesterday my legal assistant made sure that the OAH had received the complete exhibit list, which included A through G, as well as sending it over to Ms. Crawford.
The last version that I have, and I think you're correct, it was sent over. I thought there were additional exhibits, but I see the list. The last one I have has A through G, And then it has H reserved. Is that the most up-to-date version?
That's the most updated version, Your Honor, yeah.
Okay. Then I will update my statement with respect to marking exhibits to reflect that we have received an exhibit index that has exhibits A through G identified in the index along with those attached exhibits as well. So I'm going to consider the exhibits we received marked for identification as A through G described in the most recently received exhibit list. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
You may continue.
Dr. Kent, can I have you please look at pages A4 through A7? Did you prepare this narrative statement?
Yes.
Is everything in this narrative statement true?
Yes. There's an exception on dates in paragraph 3. The dates of the outpatient treatment were actually November through March, and I had erroneously listed them as October through February.
Okay, so if I can have you look again just at page A4, what is your request here today during pursuant to this petition?
To terminate probation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, based again on page A4, I want to just ask you some questions about your history of rehabilitation. Can you give me a brief summary of what you've written on A4 as to what your efforts were in rehabilitation since you started probation 2 years ago?
Yes, I attended an intensive 16-week outpatient rehabilitation program where we met 3 hours, 3 days a week in the evenings. Upon completion of that program in March of 2018, I attended weekly aftercare groups for 3 hours on Wednesday evenings until the Matrix Institute permanently closed on April 26th of 2018. Shortly thereafter, about 9 or 10 days later, I began to see the director of the Matrix Institute, who has a PhD in addiction rehabilitation, on a weekly basis, and have continued that through today. I also attended alumni of the Matrix Institute group recovery sessions that went on for 2.5 hours in the evening, 1 day a week, from August of 18 until that group was terminated at the end of September of 2019.
Can I have you look at page A13, please? And can you just briefly describe for the record what A13 is?
That is my certificate of completion for the 16-week outpatient rehabilitation program at Matrix Institute.
Okay, and can I have you please look at pages A14 and A15?
Yes.
And can you just describe for the record what those pages represent?
Those are the discharge summary that were written by Dr. Stimson when I completed the 16 weeks of outpatient rehab.
Okay, and please look at page A16. Is this a chart that you prepared?
It is.
And can you just briefly describe for the record what the first part of the chart that's entitled Matrix Intensive Outpatient? Program. What's that?
In hours. Thank you.
And the second little chart that's on page A16, what does that represent?
Those are the.
Okay, stand by. Just 1 second. I think we lost audio, or I did on my end, and looking at everyone's faces, maybe they did as well. Did everyone lose connection briefly with Ms. Lutz? Okay, I see heads nodding. I can now just briefly, at least from where I sit, my picture froze, and then you could see the little waiting symbol. So maybe if you can go back one question back to the beginning of what A16 was. I think that's where we lost you. And
Okay, thank you.
If Ms. Court Reporter, you have a different recollection, let me know. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't know what happened. I apologize. Dr. Kent, the first chart that's on page A16, can you just briefly tell us what that represents?
Those are the dates and hours of participation in the 16-week intensive outpatient program at Matrix.
And is this information that you compiled?
Yes.
The second little chart that's on page A16, what does that represent?
That represents the weekly aftercare group that began immediately after I finished outpatient rehab at the same facility.
Please look at page A17. Can you tell me what that chart represents?
Those are the dates and number of hours of individual addiction therapy that I have had, actually continue to have until now, with Dr. Stimson, who is my addictions therapist.
And I noticed that the last date on this chart is January 9th of 2020. Have you continued to see Dr. Stimson?
Yes, every week.
And is the reason why that date is on this chart because that's when you filed the petition?
Yes.
Please look at page A18. And can you describe what that chart represents?
This was a group ongoing recovery therapy for alumni of Matrix Institute that met for an hour and a half weekly until the group, well, from August of 2018 through September of 2019, when that group was disbanded.
Please look at A19. And can you just describe for the record what A19 represents?
These were weekly Alcoholics Anonymous meetings that took place at the Matrix Institute during the time I was in an intensive outpatient.
If your probation is terminated, do you plan on continuing with some kind of rehabilitation?
Yes, I'll continue with my weekly addiction therapy. I'll continue to participate in groups as they develop through our Matrix alumni. I have a number of friends that I've made all the way from the first time I went through Matrix that are sober friends that I still associate with and talk to frequently.
And if your probation is terminated, do you plan on continuing to abstain from alcohol?
Yes.
Do you plan on abstaining from controlled substances other than those prescribed by a medical physician?
Yes.
Please look at page A5.
I'm sorry, Ms. Love. Can you please repeat that last question again? You were breaking up a bit, and I'm not sure everyone caught it. I had pieces of it.
I really apologize. I don't know why I'm breaking up. Maybe I should go get my IT person who might be able to shed some light on it if we can go off the record for a minute.
Sure. How much time do you think you need?
Oh, like 2 minutes. He's just down the
Okay,
hall.
so, all right, we'll go off the record for 5 minutes or so, and we'll stay connected. You can let us know when you're ready.
Okay, thank you.
So, off the record, Ms. Leach. Thank you.
I don't know if I can ask a question off the record, but is there something specific that's different on the exhibits that were emailed to us versus the ones we previously received? Because I've gone through all the ones we previously received. I wanted to focus on maybe there was something.
So in the email I provided to the members, there were additional documents that Ms. Lutz had provided. A lot of it is duplicative from the information that you have, but there's some new documents toward the end of that for your review.
I thought it might be like E and F, is that correct? Are those the two new ones?
I believe so.
So you change from members to letters and then add E and F. Got it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you just fine.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, we just made a minor adjustment, so hopefully that will work.
Okay. It certainly sounds better.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right, so let's go back on record. And I believe, at least based on my notes, I think the question where at least I had difficulty hearing you, was the second question about whether or not the petitioner was going to continue to abstain from certain substances. So maybe you can start there.
Okay, if your probation is terminated, do you plan on continuing to abstain from controlled substances unless they're prescribed for medical condition?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Kent, please look at page A5. Did you ever miss a call-in for drug and alcohol testing?
Yes, 4 times.
Were you notified by someone at the Veterinary Medical Board when you missed drug test?
I was.
What did you do in response to that notification?
I first looked through my records to see if perhaps they had missed recording some days that I had provided biological samples, but my records did not show the days in question. So I responded to Virginia Gerard that same day and explained why I had not called in on those days.
And what was the gist of why you hadn't called in on those days?
I was working my own job and the full-time job of another veterinarian who left our practice. And we're open until 9 in the evening. I was there again at 8 a.m. for several months. And so sometimes I didn't call in the morning. And because the random notification system shuts down at 3 p.m. West Coast time, by the time I remembered at times, it was beyond the point where I would know whether I'd been chosen for that day or not.
And just, could I have you look at Exhibit B as in boy?
Yes.
Is this also a copy of your response to Virginia Gerard at the board?
Yes.
And is it the same as what is on A5?
Yes.
Is that your signature at the bottom of B1?
Yes.
I'd like to request to move Petitioner's Exhibit B into evidence for all purposes.
No objection.
Okay, and just to be clear, did you say D?
B is in boy, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, the document described by counsel has been admitted, hearing no objection.
Did you ever miss a test when you had called in and been told the test?
No.
So just to clarify for the record, these missed tests, were they because you didn't call in?
Yes.
Okay. How have you now changed what you're doing to make sure that you're not missing calling?
I have a shortcut on my iPhone that automatically dials the random notification system at 7 a.m. every day.
Can I have you please look at Exhibit G as in girl?
Yes.
Do you recognize that email?
I do.
Did you prepare it?
Yes.
Did you send it to Virginia Gerard?
Yes.
I'd like to request to move Petitioner's Exhibit G into evidence for all purposes.
Any objection?
I just need a point of clarification in G because I found the dates vague. July 28th, 2020, if that's what we're referring to. Is that the date we're referring to, 2020?
Yes. Is that date wrong?
Answer the question.
Yes, 2020.
Okay. So it says I was chosen to test and provide a sample on Saturday, July 27th of 2020, but that date has not yet occurred.
Oh, it's June. Absolutely. It's June 27th.
Okay, so every place that says July, it's actually supposed to be June?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. I didn't notice. We were so anxious to get this in as an exhibit that we didn't notice that.
Okay. Yeah, with that correction, I don't have any objections.
So just for the record, Dr. Kent, we're looking at Exhibit G, and you're talking about dates which are July 26th through 28th. Is that really supposed to be June 26th through 28th?
Yes.
And is that just last weekend?
Yes.
Okay. And can you just describe what happened that caused you to prepare this email and send it to Virginia Drive?
I had notified the random testing system that I would be out of the Los Angeles area for 3 days. And on day 2, I did get chosen to test, and I found a testing site in the desert and tested. The following day, I was back in Los Angeles and was chosen to test again. So I drove home, drove to the airport, Concentra Urgent Care, where I normally test, and was informed that there would not be a female to observe, which is required for my provision of samples. So I attempted to find another local site using my app for the random testing system and was locked out after 3 attempts to log in. So the following morning, which was June 29th rather, I called that company and they reset my password.
By that company, what company are you
It's called First Source Solutions.
Okay, thank you. Can I please have you look at page A6?
Okay, and before you move on, I want to make sure the record is clear. Hearing no objection, Exhibit G is admitted with the correction specified by the petitioner and her counsel with respect to the July 2020 dates. You may continue.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, so on page A6, did you personally fill in all the quarterly reports that were submitted?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that you submitted them on time?
Yes.
Okay, as far as continuing education, based on what you've written on A6, you were supposed to complete 4 hours per year of ethics and record keeping. Is that correct?
Correct.
How many hours did you complete of ethics training in 2018?
21.
And can I have you please look at page A21?
Yes.
Can you tell me what this represents, A21?
This is a certificate of completion for the veterinary medical ethics course that I took in 2018.
And how did you get to 21 hours of ethics?
That's how long this course was. It was 7 modules, 3 hours each.
Okay, thank you. How many hours of record keeping did you complete in 2018?
5.
Please look at page A22. Is that your signature at the top of the page?
Yes.
And can you describe for the record, please, what 822 is?
Certificate of attendance at veterinary patient medical record keeping in 2018.
And can you show us where on this document it indicates that there were 5 hours that you completed?
Near the bottom of the page, it says course meets the requirements for 5 hours of CE.
Thank you. How many hours of ethics did you complete in 2019?
16 hours.
Please look at page A23. Is that your signature halfway down the page?
Yes.
And please, for the record, describe what A23 represents.
It's a certificate of attendance for a VIN course called Veterinary Ethics that was completed in 2018. 2009. When was it?
Which year was it completed?
2019, August of 2019.
Okay, thank you. And how many hours of record keeping did you complete in 2019?
5.
Thank you. Please look at page A24. Is that your signature?
Yes.
And what does A24 represent?
It's a certificate of attendance at veterinary patient medical record keeping course 2 that was completed on 8/30/2019.
Please look at pages A25 and A26. The record, please describe what those pages represent.
Those were specific courses that I attended at the Association of Feline Practitioners meeting in San Francisco in October of 2019.
How many hours of continuing education did you obtain?
25.5 plus an additional 2-hour lunch session.
Please look at page A27. Is that your signature at the top?
Yes.
What does A27 represent?
A lecture of 2 hours of CE.
And is that the 2 hours additional?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Please let me finish my question for the court reporter. Okay, can I have you please look at page A20? And can you just generally tell me what A20 represents?
It's a summary of required continuing education during my probation, as well as veterinary continuing education summary.
And is this something you prepared?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Please look at Exhibit E. Okay. Can you describe Exhibit E for the record, please?
It's a certificate of completion for a veterinary medical ethics course that was completed in June of 2020.
I'd like to request to move Petitioner's Exhibit E into evidence for all purposes.
Any objection?
No objection.
Hearing no objection, Exhibit E is admitted.
Please look at Exhibit F, as in Frank. Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
What is it?
It's a certificate of attendance for a medical record keeping course that was completed in June of 2020.
I'd like to request to move Petitioner's Exhibit F into evidence for all purposes.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit F is admitted.
Can you please go back to page A7? And can you just generally summarize what you've written on page A7?
Yeah. I read certain journals every month, one of which is Feline Medicine and Surgery. I usually read AHA Journal as well. I have, during the terms of my probation, with permission, traveled to Namibia and Botswana in Africa, where I participate in wildlife conservation programs and research studies. They're led by Dr. Peter Brothers. We do have others in the planning stages now, but during that time I learn about African wildlife. I also donate money, time, and in some cases veterinary work. We've done things like replace tracking collars on lions that are in research projects. We have darted and done physical exams and parasite control vaccination on breeding cheetahs. We have dehorned rhinos. And so this is a passion of mine and something that I've participated in during probation as well as before. During my probation, I have grown a very rudimentary mobile veterinary practice into a very busy mobile veterinary practice called Elite Veterinary Care. I do see both dogs and cats on the west side of Los Angeles. I continue to grow and add staff and improve the quality of the care, especially during COVID. I think we've met a really extraordinary need for people that could not get veterinary care by leaving their homes. I do work at Cedars-Sinai Animal Hospital, where I bring in my own surgeries, ultrasounds, radiographs, etc., that I see on the road. I also work a couple of relief shifts per week at Cedars-Sinai. And during the time I'm there, I do a lot of work with adoption organizations. Some of them are listed: Perfect Pet Rescue, Ladera Pet Project. Every time that I work there, I do specific pro bono and reduced price work for various adoption organizations.
Thank you. Please look at page A8. And can you just describe for the record briefly what A8 represents?
It's a CV for myself.
When did you prepare this CV?
During the time I was preparing the packet for requesting termination of probation.
And approximately when was that?
February of 2020.
So is everything still correct on this CV?
Yes.
Please look at page A9. And can you describe for the record what A9 represents?
It's a letter of recommendation written by Dr. Barry Baum, who owns Cedars-Sinai Animal Hospital, where I've been employed.
How long have you been employed at Cedars-Sinai?
Since 2015, January.
How many days a week do you work there?
Currently 2. There have been times when I've worked as many as 5, sometimes 6, covering for other doctors who left for maternity leave, etc.
What services do you perform at Cedars-Sinai?
Surgery, medicine, ultrasound, radiograph interpretation, lab work.
Do you intend to continue to work at Cedars-Sinai Animal Hospital?
Yes.
Please look at page A10. How do you know Dr. Steinberg?
She's a colleague, feline practitioner, and friend.
Have you ever traveled with her?
Yes, extensively.
When did you travel with her?
Over the last 20 years, we've traveled domestically and to Europe, often for meetings, International Society of Feline Medicine, AAFP, and then just added on additional travel time to those meetings.
So would you say that you've spent a decent amount of time over the past few years with Dr. Steinberg?
Yes.
Have you been with her in social situations?
Yes.
Did Dr. Steinberg go to Africa?
Yes.
Please look at page A11. Who is Janice Stinson?
My therapist.
Did you ask her to write this letter?
Yes.
How long have you known Janice Stinson?
6 years.
And did you first meet her because you were going to her as a therapist?
No, she was the director of Matrix Institute, which was the outpatient rehabilitation program that I've gone through twice.
Is Dr. Stinson the person that you continue to see one time a week?
Yes.
And do you plan on continuing to see her?
Yes.
Could you repeat that last question, please? I heard the answer, but the question was a little muffled.
Do you plan on continuing to see her in the future?
Yes.
Yeah, and I apologize, Your Honor. I don't know why we're having trouble with the audio.
For what it's worth, I can hear Dr. Kent just fine. Some of your questions, Counsel, are a little muffled, so it could be the location of the microphone.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I mean, when we did this a month ago, I was asked to make sure that my client and not me were in the picture. So that's what we're trying to do, but that might be the problem, is that in an effort to do that, and because we're sitting at a big table. So we've moved it slightly. Hopefully that will correct the problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just looking at some of the specific information on A11. When Dr. Stinson is referring to the treatment at Matrix Institute on addiction, that's what you described earlier as the outpatient program, correct?
Correct.
And as far as the long-term recovery group that went from August 5th to September 25th, that's referred to in the last paragraph, can you describe those meetings?
Yes. We read together, so it's sort of a book group. We also wrote about our past, wrote about our changes. The purpose of the group was to address issues of long-term recovery. So there were people in there who had 15 to 20 years of recovery time. We read specifically a book called Moments of Clarity by Chris Kennedy Lawford, and that was sort of the beginning of each session. We would read someone's story who had recovered successfully and what their life was like before, what it's like now. We also read a book called Grit on perseverance and passion. So we would read together, talk about different sections of books, write, and talk about our own personal issues of recovery.
Was Dr. Stinson present during those sessions?
Yes.
Please look at page A12. Who is Cynthia Trammell?
She is a former client and personal friend.
How long have you known her?
20 years.
And how often do you see her on a yearly basis?
Well, in the first 12 or so years, she was a client. So I saw her about 4 times a year. After that, the last 8 years, we became very close friends. Her cats eventually passed away and she moved. But prior to that, I would see her weekly.
Is Ms. Trammell employed?
Yes.
You know what she does for a living?
She is a professor of paralegal studies.
You know where?
She was at UCLA. Now, I'm not sure.
Please look at Exhibit C as in cat. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
Can you describe for the record what it is?
It is an inspection summary from my practice, surprise inspection from the Veterinary Medical Board that took place in September of 2019.
Please look at page C2. Can you describe that for the record, please?
That was a letter I received from the Veterinary Medical Board following the inspection.
I'd like to request to move Petitioner's Exhibit C as in cat into evidence for all purposes.
Any objection?
I'd like to reserve on Exhibit C until I can question the petitioner further on it.
Okay, so we're going to hold off on decision on the request that Exhibit C be admitted until after questioning. You may continue, counsel.
Okay, thank you. During the inspection, did the inspector find any issues with compliance?
No.
Thank you. Please look at Exhibit D as in dog. Do you recognize these documents?
Yes.
Can you describe for the record what they are collectively?
They are letters that were included in all of my quarterly reports on my recovery progress from Dr. Stimson, my therapist.
Is it your understanding that these letters were sent to the board when you sent your quarterly report?
Yes.
Your Honor, I noticed that Dr. Kent's date of birth is on this. I apologize for all of this. The remote working has made it difficult for my staff and I to make sure that this doesn't happen. But the date of birth should have been redacted. But in any case, these letters perhaps should be introduced under seal along with the other letter from Dr. Stimson.
And when you say these letters, which letters are you referring to?
Everything in Exhibit D.
Hang on just 1 second. And another thing, with respect to the dates of birth, I saw them on almost all the documents. And there's a couple of options. One is the petitioner certainly can say she's fine with having her date of birth in the record. I'm not particularly comfortable with that. Another option is you can simply resubmit redacted versions of these documents to the extent they're only redacted as described on the record. Do you have a preference?
We're happy to do whatever you would prefer. So if you would prefer the redacted versions, then we can do that.
I think that would be best. And to the extent you want certain documents admitted under seal that we haven't already identified, either you can identify them as we go along, as long as I have the AGO numbers, because I'm clicking here through several different exhibits. I'm not sure if you submitted them as one file, but my office has paid me the courtesy of separating them into 4 different files, maybe because of the size. So I'm trying to keep up, but I want to be sure the record is clear. So if you can describe specifically the page numbers that you want to be sealed, it'll be a little easier for me to follow along. Or you can submit those with the redacted documents in writing. That probably would be my preference. Does that make sense?
Okay, so just to clarify we will redact the date of birth. And again, I'm talking about all the exhibits in D, as in dog, which is D1 through D12, which also includes D11, which has already been discussed, which is the same as AGO 022. So what you're requesting is that we resubmit the letters in Exhibit D with the date of birth redacted, with a request that they be filed under seal. Is that correct?
If the only documents you're requesting that be sealed at this point is D1 through 12, I have that. It just, when you said we would like these documents to be redacted, I wasn't exactly clear what these refer to, but if it's D1 through 12, I have that in my notes and I could do that myself.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
But I would like redacted versions of the documents that don't have the date of birth.
Yes, we will do that.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Kent, if I can have you look at page D1, please. And can you just generally explain what you think Dr. Stimson means when she says that you have been an active participant in relapse prevention groups?
That means that I was attending the AA meetings while I was in outpatient rehab. I was attending the aftercare, the long-term recovery groups, and participating by speaking up, offering feedback to others, reading, writing. That's it.
Okay, please look at page D2. And can you briefly describe what Dr. Stimson has said about when she talks about changes that you made to protect recovery?
Largely, she was referring to changes in relationships, social settings, times and places and people that were associated with abuse of alcohol and certain substances.
Please look at page D3. And can you just tell us, for the record, what is your long-term recovery issue and strategy?
Well, there's more. It's not a long-term issue. It's multiple issues, but largely I've continued to work on all of them in terms of just staying sober. I mean, my long-term recovery plan is to stay sober for as long as I live. In terms of strategies, I continue to talk to people, I continue to read, I continue to work in therapy, writing, and I will continue that indefinitely.
Thank you. Please look at D4. And Dr. Stimson refers here to an exercise and meditation routine. Can you just briefly touch on that?
I meditate every day, and I have for a long time. That helps me stay calm. It helps me dissipate the stresses of being a veterinarian. I also still continue to train. I was a competitive bodybuilder for 17 years. I still train regularly. For me, that's a form of therapy.
Please look at B5. And referring to the trip to Africa, do you believe that your participation in that trip is a fundamental practice in the recovery community?
Not specifically Africa, but the fundamental principle is one of being of service. And I think participating in conservation efforts is being of service.
Let's look at D6. In D6, Dr. Stimson refers to homework assignments. Can you just briefly touch on what homework assignments you were given?
Reading certain chapters of the book that we would then come back and discuss at the next session, and writing.
Please look at D7. Have you been able to adjust your schedule so that you can gain a balance in your life?
Yes,
Do you think that's important to you?
absolutely. Yeah, I think having the mobile practice has given me a lot more flexibility than owning facilities. That's definitely helped me to regain balance. Cutting back my relief days to just 2 days a week has also allowed me time to participate in things I enjoy and recovery activities, spend more time with my family.
Do you have family that lives close by?
Yes, my 2 adult children.
And do you spend time with them?
A lot, yes.
Okay, please look at D8. Is it important that you remain in telephonic contact with Dr. Stimson?
Yes. We've been doing video conferencing since March, but we also often do just speak by phone.
How did you handle the COVID-19 situation while still maintaining sobriety?
Well, as I just mentioned, I did do video conferencing therapy every week, same schedule that I did in person. I also stayed in contact with my sober friends. I continue to meditate. Actually, I was working a lot more during that time because the mobile practice was needed. So all of those things kept me focused, and it was easy for me to maintain sobriety during that time.
Throughout your probation, have you been paying probation monitoring costs monthly?
Yes.
Are you current with your payment of $100 per month?
Yeah.
And what is your understanding about what is owed for the cost bill?
The number that I have most recently is $2,766.70.
If your probation is terminated pursuant to this petition, you have the ability to pay off that cost bill?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, we've been going for, I believe, a little over an hour by my clock, so now might be a good time for a break. My question to the group would be two things. Do we want to take a lunch break or a 10 to 15-minute break and return? Preferences?
I would prefer we take a 15-minute break and return. Anybody else want to weigh in?
I agree.
I agree with that too.
Okay.
Thank you. That's better for us as well. Thank you.
All right. So by my clock, it's 1:10. So let's come back at 1:25 off the record. And I don't think we're missing anyone. If we are, someone let me know, but it doesn't look like it. All right, then, Ms. Crawford, you may begin with your questions.
Thank you. Ms. Kent, what is your sobriety date from alcohol?
I would say September 20th of 2017.
And what happened on September 20th that resulted in you making the determination to become sober?
It was the beginning of probation. I had had long-term sobriety multiple times before then, but I did relapse between my hearing and initiation of probation.
Your probation with the Veterinary Medical Board?
Yes.
Do you consider yourself as having a problem with alcohol?
Throughout my life, yes, I've had a negative relationship with alcohol.
So is sobriety from alcohol something that you also plan to continue?
Yes.
I believe I read in your records that you have not had a drink except for a glass of wine to celebrate a recent birthday. Is that right?
Prior to the hearing, yes. That was for my 60th birthday.
Yeah. Okay. And what about your sobriety date from cocaine? What date is that?
Was June 24th of 2016.
What prompted that date?
I split up with a romantic partner that I had lived with for 8 years, who was a very negative influence in that way.
You had used cocaine for about during the entire relationship for about 8 years?
Yes.
And what about alcohol?
Alcohol was not as much of a problem during that point in my life, but I did drink.
And how long would you say you've had that unhealthy relationship with alcohol?
Since I was in my early 30s. I did have an 8-year period of sobriety from the time I was 34 to 42.
And have you identified what your triggers are with regards to alcohol?
Yes.
What are those?
Some of it was related to childhood trauma, but more in later years was related to overwhelming stress of raising 2 children by myself, owning 2 practices, financial issues that arose at the time of the recession, increasing competition in my area of West LA, a struggle to continue to provide for my family and the lifestyle that I wanted to. Those all contributed.
And with your addiction to cocaine, was the primary trigger the unhealthy partner?
Yes, I would call it dependence, not really an addiction, but yes, it was related specifically to my relationship with my partner.
So you've described for us a lot of activities that you participate in, a lot of treatments that you provide. You've got a very busy practice. You go abroad as well to help. How do you keep those events in your life from becoming stressors that may lead you to relapse?
Just to review, I only work 2 days a week in the clinic, no matter what. I work 2 long days doing house calls. I have another half a day that I do admin work and records. The rest of the time is my own. I participate in recovery activities. I go to the gym. I have a walking partner that's sober that I walk with 3 times a week, 5 miles 3 times a week. I meditate at least once, sometimes twice a day. So I have found a way to have better control over my schedule through the type of practice I have and not owning a facility.
So did I misunderstand that I was under the impression that the mobile clinic was something you did own. Is that right or no?
I do. It's just not a facility.
Okay. And that
is a van.
Okay. And you work out of that mobile clinic, is it 2 days a week?
2 days a week.
And you find that working in a mobile clinic is far less stressful than working in a facility?
Oh, definitely. I only have 2 employees. We go to people's homes. We don't work out of the van. We go to people's homes. That's a mechanism for carrying equipment and pharmacy. But we actually go to people's homes, and on average, we do 8 visits in a day. So 2 days a week. It's very manageable.
Okay. Now you're continuing to see Dr. Stinson. Is that on a weekly basis?
Yes.
What do you find helpful in your therapy with her when looking at how to remain sober?
It's just talking about things that come up, whether it's communication issues, whether it's management issues. We talk about everything that could potentially cause discomfort. And that, for me, is the key to working through it. So I don't find it necessary to mask anything.
Mm-hmm. And other than Dr. Stinson, are you doing any other programs that you're still participating in?
There aren't any other current, there aren't groups going on right now, but there will be again. And yes, I will participate in long-term recovery groups as they're formed.
Okay, Dr. Kent, can you be sure you wait until she finishes her question before you respond? Yeah. It's really hard to take down 2 people speaking at once.
I understand.
Thank you.
With regard to your most recent missed tests last weekend, did you attempt to make up those tests by maybe going in the following day?
That's not how it works. It's a random testing program. I do call in every day, but we don't make up for tests. We go as randomly chosen.
Okay, so if you miss a test, you can't call in and ask to be tested the next day, just to kind of show that there was no reason for you to miss that test other than you forgot.
No, that's not allowed.
Okay. And then I just wanted to briefly talk about Exhibit C. I just really wanted to understand it a little bit better. You said this was a mobile clinic inspection report. So what happened during this inspection?
The inspector came to my home, which is where I have my veterinary practice software and where I have controlled drugs stored, controlled drug logs, similar to what you'd have in a clinic. And then also she inspected the van to look for expired drugs, to see how clean it was, to see how it was laid out, how I went about my home visits, what kind of equipment I took in, sort of the scope of care, and then took random samples of records, which were approved without any problems, and then looked at things like biohazard, how I do sharps disposal, what kind of pharmacy I have, the scope of equipment that I carry. It was just an inspection of the totality of my mobile practice, both in the home base and in the van.
Do you have to have some kind of record that can be audited about the controlled substances that you keep in your home for your business?
Yes.
And that was part of the inspection?
Yes.
Have you discussed the fact that as part of your mobile clinic, you do have to keep controlled substances in your home with your therapist?
No, because pharmaceutical drugs were never a part of my problem. I've never abused pharmaceuticals. I abused recreational cocaine and alcohol.
As someone who is protective of their recovery, do you have no concerns about having full access to controlled substances in your home?
Not at all. I've been in practice for 40 years. I've had access to controlled substances the entire time, and that's never been an issue or a problem for me.
And have those controlled substances been in your home?
No, they've been in my practices, which I owned.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about things like euthanasia solutions, injectable tranquilizers. I mean, there's really nothing for me personally that would have any abuse potential.
Okay, so there's no kinds of like painkillers, things like that you have in your...
I typically don't carry those because I don't like to carry them in the van. I might have some limited supply of tramadol, but that's it.
Okay.
And that's that does not pose any kind of problem for me.
Okay.
And of course, those are things that I would be tested for as well.
The things like painkillers?
Yes, it's part of the testing.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you for answering that.
You're welcome.
All right, questions from the board. President Nolan?
Thank you, and thank you for joining us. I appreciate how hard this can be, and for your candor and all your information that you've provided to the board, Dr. Kent. You mentioned pain medications, and do you write prescriptions then when you need some of your patients to have pain control?
No, I usually have them pick them up at Center Sinai since I have an affiliation with a hospital.
And I know that you've answered a lot of this question, but do you find that there are things other than just busyness and stress that can tend to be make you at risk at this stage in your life for relapse, or is it mostly stress and busyness?
It isn't so much stress and busyness. It was more economic strife, the complication of managing a very large staff in the face of a recession, having two teenagers at home at the same time. That was profound stress on top of stress, which is none of those factors are in my life at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, Vice President Bowler.
Hi, thank you for being here. And a lot of the questions have been answered by you and in the course of this last hour or two that I had at the beginning. But what is your main reason for wanting to terminate probation at this time?
I would like to be free to travel, and I did have permission to do one trip to Africa during my probationary time, but I would like to be free to travel to see my family regularly, to go back to Africa as often as I want to do the work that I like to do there. And testing takes a lot of time. And that's not just calling in, it's rescheduling the day, driving to the airport, and sometimes waiting an hour and a half to be seen. It's hard. It's hard in a life where I have worked hard on recovery and wish to go forward growing other avenues of interest to have to devote that amount of time to random testing.
Thank you. I think you also said that your plan is to continue with the various therapy sessions, group and otherwise, when the groups get on, continue again. And is your plan, I might have missed this, but your plan is also to continue with the individual therapy sessions with Dr. Simpson or whoever it is that you've been going to, even after probation is finished or completed?
Absolutely.
I had one other question, and I think I may know the answer after, and I'm not a vet, so I'm not quite as clear about the CE requirements. I noticed that one of the things in your petition said if you, as an alternative to terminating, you had proposed removing the requirements for the CE course work, both on ethics and record keeping. Is that correct? That's what I recall.
Yes,
And why is that?
because I want to focus my continuing education budget and time on medicine.
I get it, understand, okay. And then I was surprised that one course on ethics, I think your requirement is 4 hours a year or something, but that one ethics course was a total of 21 hours, I gather.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's the only questions I have. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, Dr. Bradbury.
Hi, Dr. Kent.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. I was really impressed with all of the personal work you've done on just in your recovery and how dedicated you are to that, and also all of the things that you do to help you cope. And I just wondered, how are you feeling? It seems like maybe things are a lot better for you. How are you feeling with all of that?
Much better. I'm a new person.
Yeah, I bet. That's great. And how often are you planning on going to Africa if we terminate your probation?
Twice a year.
Oh, that'll be neat. Okay. That's really all the questions I had. Thanks for your testimony. Everything else has been answered.
You're welcome.
And Dr. Nunez.
I always like to hear petitioners tell stories about how they overcome their addictions, and you are to be commended for that, because that's not an easy thing to do. And I know that testing is hard. It's super, super hard, but all the tests that you did do were negative, so that is also very telling. The drugs and alcohol that you did get into trouble with, though, never really affected your practice. There was a statement in here that said that you never did the cocaine while at work. Just a quick clarification, the board did receive a complaint that you were doing drugs and alcohol, and that resulted in an unannounced inspection visit, and that's where you tested positive. Was that complaint from members of the hospital staff concerned about your performance, or how did that arise?
There was a surprise inspection. It was actually on my day off, and I voluntarily took a test and was positive for cocaine. But in terms of the original complaint, it was a disgruntled former employee, and there was never any evidence or proof or collaboration with her story that I had used drugs or alcohol at work.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Laredo.
All right, so most of my questions were answered. The only question that I really had was the reasoning for wanting to terminate the ethics continuing education, but you answered that, so thank you.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Prado.
Yes, no questions for me, but thank you for your time and thank you for answering all of our questions.
Dr. Waterhouse.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kent. I can tell you that I share your passion for Africa. It's just a very special place. So I'm still kind of confused about the controlled drugs that you keep in your mobile practice. So that I assume that it's a car or a van.
Yes.
And that's kept in your garage at your house?
Yes.
And then, so what controlled drugs do you have in that vehicle?
They're not in the vehicle. They're locked up in a locked cabinet in my home.
Okay.
As I need to take them out specifically for euthanasia, I log them in as used, and I take them out only on that specific call.
Okay. So do you have ketamine or Valium or Tilazol or?
I have ketamine and Valium. I have ketamine, midazolam, euthanasia solution, butorphanol, acepromazine.
Okay. But when you were inspected, all those drug logs were okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Dr. Kent, can you repeat the names of those drugs again a little more slowly? I want to be sure that I have them and that the court reporter has them.
Sure. Euthanasia solution, midazolam, ketamine, butorphanol, acepromazine.
Thank you. All right, so Ms. Lutz, do you have any additional questions that you would like to ask Dr. Kent based on any of to clarify anything that's been testified to so far?
Yes, I have one question, and then I'd like to make a short closing argument if I could.
Okay, and before you make the closing, I'm going to see if Ms. Crawford has any additional questions as well.
Right, I do not, thank you.
Okay, she's clarified, so you may go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The only question I had is just that based on the some of the questions from the board, Dr. Kent, would you just clarify the difference between what stressors you might have now and the stressors that you had when you were bringing up two teenage children and the recession and all of that, just to clarify that you do not any longer have those stressors?
So I no longer own a facility. That was a big one. I had a very large facility with multiple doctors and multiple staff members. That was a big stressor, especially in the face of a declining economy. I owned a big home in Pacific Palisades. I was a single parent of two teenagers who were looking at expensive college educations. I had recently lost my father. So there were a lot of things that were contributing at that moment in time to sort of a perfect storm of triggers. Since then, I have a lot more control over my life. My children are grown. They're lovely adults. I sold the big house in the Palisades. I live in a very manageable home for me. I work 4 days a week by choice, which is perfect. And I am committed to the multiplicity of outside activities that keep me sober and keep me happy.
So is this a good time for my closing argument, Your Honor, or are there any other questions? Or?
I believe Ms. Crawford says she has no other questions, and if the board or anyone's thought of anything else that they would like to ask, now would be the time. It doesn't appear that there are any other questions, so yes, now would be the time to make your closing.
Okay, so I'll make this very short. I just want to emphasize that, you know, from my perspective here and all we've heard from Dr. Kent, that she's actually the poster child for rehabilitation under these circumstances. She's devoted herself to extensive rehabilitation and has been diligent about attending all of those sessions, despite the fact that she's also practicing veterinary medicine. She has no prior history of discipline. There was never any evidence presented or alleged in the underlying accusation or first amended accusation that she was impaired in either in her exercise of her responsibilities as a veterinarian or in her ability to manage her practices due to alcohol or cocaine use. She's complied with over 100% with the terms of probation, with the exception of the missed call-ins for drug testing, which she has corrected and which what happened over the weekend just appears to be some kind of a fluke with the system where there wasn't a female there to witness the test. You have in your exhibits from the Attorney General's office the probation status report, which is Exhibit 3, which indicates her complete compliance with all of her terms of probation. She's obviously motivated to continue with her sessions with Dr. Stimson and to continue her sobriety. In short, it's the responsibility of the board to protect the public, and there's no reason to believe, based on the testimony we've heard today, that the public is not protected if Dr. Kent's probation is terminated. I strongly urge you to consider the documents presented in addition to Dr. Kent's testimony and to terminate her probation as requested in the petition. I thank you all for your attention.
All right, thank you very much. Before we move forward, Ms. Crawford, do you have an objection to Exhibit C being admitted to evidence? I know you had questions to ask before you took a position.
I don't have an objection.
Okay. And what about with respect to Exhibit D? We may have admitted that one, but looking at my notes, it's not clear, so I want to be sure. Is there any objection to Exhibit D being admitted?
Let me take a quick look.
Okay. That's the only one that I show as outstanding, but these are from my notes. I may have admitted it and not checked it on my notes.
Oh, right. I don't have any objection to D either.
Okay. Exhibit D is admitted. Okay, so that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. We do have one more homework item, and that is we were going to address the submission of the redacted documents. How much time do you need to submit those, Ms. Lutz?
Oh, I can probably get them done today if I had to, but, you know, a day or two max.
Okay.
My legal assistant is available as soon as I contact him, so I'm sure he'll get right on it and get those documents to you.
So is Monday too soon? Monday the 6th? I'm not sure. Is that a holiday?
No. I don't believe so.
Monday is fine, Your Honor.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go off the record, but the record will not close until Monday the 6th at 5 p.m. I can add an additional day, Ms. Crawford, if you think you need an opportunity to respond or object, but my expectation is that the documents I receive will be the exact same documents we have, but for the redacted confidential information. Are you comfortable with that?
I am.
Okay. So the record will remain open until Monday the 6th at 5 p.m. for the submission of respondents' exhibits with appropriate redactions. Okay, so with that said, the case is submitted and the record will close as scheduled. We are off the record. And at this point, we could take a break, but we'll be deliberating in closed session, so I will turn it back over to President Nolan at that point. Would you like to take a break, or would you guys like to push through? I lost track of my time here, but I think we've been going for about 20 minutes.
Well, first of all, do you need to know number of pages, Your Honor?
I most definitely do.
Okay.
60 pages. 60.
Thank you very much. And before you leave, Ms. Litz, I know if we were sitting in a petition room, I'd ask the president and the board whether or not they would like the court reporter to stand by. Sometimes there's readback if board member's not clear in terms of what was testified to. Doesn't happen very frequently, but I always like to ask. So does anyone think that we need the court reporter to stand by in case we need readback?
I don't think that's necessary, Your Honor.
Okay. And thank you very much, Ms. Court Reporter. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
And I just go ahead and we need to close the open session now, Your Honor, so we can go ahead and open the closed session. So what I'd like to do right now is to go ahead and close the open session for the record and give us 5 minutes, and we'll come back to our the closed session. Does that make sense, everyone?
And to clarify, members, you can use the existing link. You could just stay on, and Justin Sapilla will take over as a moderator, and we'll close it to the public.
Okay, so we'll return back here. In fact, how about 2:05? Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And this is the current moderator. I am dismissing the public attendees.